Well, I'm glad we're able to help each other there, Darrell, and appreciate you taking the time for this interview. Just for the sake of readers, watchers, listeners, whatever, who are you? What's your name? Where were you born? Where were you brought up? And where do you live now? Just to kind of help create that sort of global geographical context.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, Darrell Hardidge, 58, going into 59, Similar haircuts to you, mate, Born in Melbourne, always been in Melbourne. Family's been here, migrated from England in 1858. So we've been around a long time here in around Melbourne. I live out of Melbourne now, an hour and a half out in the country. Sort of got the COVID blues of living in the city. It was convenient when everything was happening in the city, and when it all shut down, it was not much fun. So we sold up and moved and have plenty of space now, and I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. Best thing I ever did. So yeah, live in the country. Got a massive amount of work to do, so I like doing projects. So I've got, bought myself a really cool tractor and a whole bunch of good gear. So I just get out in the paddock and make a mess and have fun. It's great. Got cows and totally different life.
Proper projects. Proper projects.
Yeah, real ones. And
physical projects.
We're full on to create a sustainable property. So in the sense that we're setting up vegetable gardens, and we're vegetarian. So we the cows are lucky cows on our property because we're not going to eat them. But and so we're just building all that, and we're really we've got rainwater, and we just got to switch to solar soon, and then we'll be off grid, and we, as much as we can, you can't do everything, but we will be pretty well down the road on we'll grow what we eat, and so just making it a project really, so that we've got a really good lifestyle, we've got good clean air, we've got good clean water, we've got fresh organic food. Property we bought's already got lots of fruit trees and little orchards and things on it. I've got a vineyard as well, so I've got to learn how to make my own grog, so I can even do that. So it's good. It's good. So yeah, we're on.
That's great, and wonderful. That it gives us a real insight into Darrell. And just in the line of this next question, when you think about somebody else who knows Darrell Hardidge well, how would they describe you in a sentence or two? I'll give you two sentences.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? How would they describe me? Pretty blunt, I suppose. I don't fluff around. So yeah, I'm a bit of an introvert these days. I really enjoy just hanging out in nature and doing stuff, and love business. Business is something I really do enjoy. I think I've only been employed for about 4, maybe 5 years. The rest I've always had different types of businesses and things. So I love business, and I enjoy creating stuff. So we go into companies, and I used to have a consulting firm. We go into companies and re-engineer them, and now we do what we do with client experience. We re-engineer that. So our mantra is always to add value. So whatever I do, I'm looking for how can we make something better than where we started.
So you've obviously contributed a chapter to How to Be a Six-Star Business. That's why we're having this chat now. What is your chapter about, Darrell?
My chapter's about defining excellence. A lot of companies, they have the best intention to create a quality business and their team and really good loyalty, and they measure it with satisfaction because that's the most commonly used method. And we've all seen billboards and ads that say 100% satisfaction guarantee, you'll be completely satisfied. And when you're paying top dollar for something, it's like, well, so what? Imagine if we're renovating the house, and I can assure you with the kitchen we've got going in, if the kitchen guy said to my wife, you're going to be 95% satisfied with this kitchen, she's not going to be happy with that. Well, what's the 5%? What am I not getting? Satisfaction is the starting line. It's the gun going off of creating client experience and loyalty. And so, with my company, we measure this, and we only do phone research. So we have real-time interviews with people, and we document the interviews, and we analyze the interviews, and we're looking for the essence of the experience, and we're looking to define the difference between a heart driver, which is the emotional connection to your market, and a head driver, which is the stuff. It's process, systems, procedures, stock on the shelf, that sort of thing. And we know from all of our research that the most powerful companies, the number one companies, and number one could be, your local area, your state, your city, whatever number one is for you in what you're competing. But there's always a number one. And those number ones have the greatest loyalty, and they're not the cheapest. And they have a loyalty that's different to the others. They have loyalty that's related to their culture and their people, and that's what we call the heart connection. So out of our work, and what I've condensed in this chapter, I sort of grabbed a whole bunch of stuff and rammed it in, is we define what we call client or customer, whatever they refer to, and we define that as appreciation. And so when you have really high degrees of customer appreciation, you have a strong heart connection to your market. And they're the things like trust, friendly, helpful, understanding me, great communication. It's about my engagement with your team and your business, and the people in your business is what I'm loyal to, and you also do a great job of whatever it is you sell. So my chapter is about defining the difference between just giving people what they pay for, and then the point of difference in what excellence looks like. And I've put a bunch of data in there. There's about 76,000, I think, interviews in it that we did from all different industries, and we mashed up this data. And I put the grid in there and the analytics on it, and it just shows the unbelievable difference between a 10 out of 10 experience and an 8 out of 10 experience, and what that does to repeat business, to referrals, to value for money, so pricing and margin, and wallet share. And we measure wallet share as 80% or greater, so where you are dominant in that market. So they're primarily using you. They only use someone else if they have to, otherwise they choose you. So we measure all that, and I've put that in the chapter as well. So that'll give people a real fast, rapid understanding that if you're measuring satisfaction, you're holding yourself back, because you're basically measuring yourself against the averages of others. That's what just giving people what they paid for is. But when you can measure and hold yourself accountable and benchmark yourself against what your own market says is 10 out of 10, and absolutely, I love doing business with you. When you measure yourself against your own standards of excellence, then you can constantly improve and keep driving that. Because, when people, they often say, how are we benchmarking? I'm like, well, don't worry about that, because often what you're benchmarking against is a flawed system in the first place. Just measure yourself against your own standard of excellence. And the more you can deliver that, you can't fail. You just have to get stronger and stronger, because your competitors are measuring average. So we talk about that, got the data in there to back it up, talk about a key distinction of leadership to optimal results around the theory, the experience, and most importantly, the prediction. Because when you get right into the real core of what loyalty is about, long-term loyalty, it's pretty much geared around the fact that you'll do what you say you'll do. I know I can rely on you, and I can count on you to fix it or whatever, which means that if you tell me you'll do something, you'll do it. That's a prediction. Where most of the times when people have a problem with a business, they didn't get what they thought, which meant the prediction failed. And then you look to the theory and the experience behind why that failed. And when you bring that right back to client experience and reverse engineer it back to team onboarding, team training, processes, mentoring, whatever it is, you'll find where all the answers are in there. And so our purpose, and what I've tried to condense in this book, in this chapter rather, is just to get people to think a little bit more, to go, well, we're measuring satisfaction. That's going to hold us back. There's another way to measure this. How do I know it works? Well, there's the really solid data of thousands and thousands of people that were interviewed by my team. And then there's also a real key distinction of what leadership is about to achieve the optimal results. And it'll give people, hopefully, some new things to think about around how to get their edge.
Yeah. It just in that you kind of answered a couple of questions that I did have around what impact you hope to create from being an author of a chapter in the 6-Star Business book, and specifically what one light bulb moment or specific practical action step that a reader could take. In light of those questions and taking into account what you've already said, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think the key thing is that when you get into the analysis of these things, whenever you look at what sits behind customer satisfaction, it's a head connection. It's just stuff. When you get to the real core of what creates a appreciation, genuine appreciation from the customer. And that's the customer grateful for you. They need you to be there. So when you have appreciation, your customers, it's in their interest that you stay in business. So it's almost like a selfish thing. So I recommend my friends to come to you because I want you to stay in business for me, because I love coming to your restaurant or whatever it may be that you do. And so when you understand these distinctions that sit behind customer appreciation, it's a completely different way to think about how to drive the growth in your company and the loyalty and so on. And of course, you've got to have good people. You've got to have your team right. So the key with this is that when you look at satisfaction, when people are fighting it out there in the market, they're trying to be different. But when you look at every product and service, there's always a number one, and they're always better. So the way we define it is, different isn't always better, but better is always different. And so when you're looking at your business, don't try to fight it out to be different, because there's always another 2-for-1 gimmick, there's another fancy ad, there's another something, whatever that's coming that you don't know about. Just be the greatest company you possibly can to deal with, and make that your point of difference, and you'll stay strong. Because there's also quite a misunderstanding, and this is where the bean counters and I don't get on too well with some of the companies I work with, because they go, "I cost too much." It's like, you don't know the economics of loyalty. Real powerful loyalty, unshakable loyalty, which is what we call appreciation. It doesn't cost, it pays, and it pays massive dividends. And of course, when you connect that to hopefully a lot of the readers who have companies and businesses, one day they're going to sell it. It's the asset. And if I'm going to buy your business, I'm buying the future revenue of your customers, not the past. That's what you had, and your financials are based on that. But I'm buying the future, and I want to know I'm buying something solid. And if you've built a client base or a customer base that has got these principles behind it, it's powerful, it's predictable, and therefore it's worth many multiples more than a business that delivers satisfaction. So it doesn't just pay today in better margins, more referrals, more transactions, less burn and churn, virtually none. It's not just more powerful today, that adds up to the financial returns, and of course that's many multiples more in the value of the business. So when people say, satisfaction's where it is, delivering excellence costs too much, I don't know what they're talking about, because you really got to look at the power of what this does on how much people spend and how much they refer and so on. And hopefully when people are reading this and they've got a business, and if they're anyone who's reading this book, and I'm not aware of all the others are writing at this point, but if they're fighting it out in the market, they're finding their markets competitive and tough, a lot of people will say, it's the market we're in. But often it's not that at all. What it really is that they're not enough to be beyond that. They're trying to be different, not trying to be better. And so hopefully what people can sort of sit back and think, well, what if we can work out how to define what our absolute point of difference is by being the best, and what creates our 10 out of 10 experience, and then focus on
6-star.
6-star, exactly. Thank you. 6-star, that's exactly right. And then reverse engineer that back into onboarding, recruitment, training, mentoring, the whole thing. And they will find that this is going to change their world, because we've in our journey, we're way over 500,000 phone calls we've done. It's my team. We don't outsource it. So we have got enormous data on this. And there is just no disputing it. The fact that if you put that extra bit in, but you must know what it is. You can't guess what your client, you can't guess what excellent service is, because you can't receive it, and you can't get out of the way of your bias. You have to have an independent market perspective, the people that pay you, and learn from them and be able to define what excellence is, and then build it towards that, because then it's predictable, right? So there's so many things that we see people just work so hard and have, just unshakable commitment, and they work crazy hours, and they genuinely just right from their heart want to do a great thing to their customers, but they've got the wrong methodology. And no matter how hard they try, they'll do okay. But what we basically say to a lot of people when we start with them the very first time, and I look at their first lot of data. I just had one yesterday, and I said to them, greatness awaits. Greatness awaits you. You've got so much insight now to what greatness is, you've now just got to train everybody to know how to do that. And wow, you're going to just fly. So, that's the sort of thing that sits there, and hopefully people can get a real, I've condensed a lot of stuff into one chapter, so it'll certainly get them thinking.
It sounds like you have. I'm kind of thinking, how have you actually managed to get all that in there? And, by your own admission, Darrell, you've been around the block a few times. You've certainly been around the sun a few times. When you think of everything that you could have written about in this chapter, what inspired you to specifically write on the topic that you have?
I think reflecting the COVID situation that everyone's experiencing. We're in a period now where if you're B2B, your business is going through disruption and distraction. Your clients are, the end user is as well. We're going through this period where we've had more disturbance than ever. And there's a change in how the data looks. There's no question about it. And what we're seeing is that those that have been able to stay on top of, really clear communication, understanding what matters, knowing how to be the best, they've stayed really strong. And we've had other clients that haven't had quite that same situation where they haven't delivered that, and their business are going down. So it's really been an interesting period that sort of had me able to reflect on it, because we're all going through this situation, and there's no question there's been a shift in the data around that.
Okay. I haven't read your chapter yet, and I can't wait.
Thank you.
I got a couple of questions for you, Darrell, which kind of will hopefully put you in a reflective mood as you look back on your path and your journey to where you are now. As you think about that, what would you say is the greatest reward that you've received? It's been the greatest gift to you on your journey to where you are now?
From a business perspective?
Business and personal, or personal?
Personal, family, of course. Good health, long lives, that sort of thing. We've sort of had good fortune there for sure. I think health and the family staying together is number one. So that's we're very grateful for that, and what we're doing now with our project at home. Our intention here is to create a space for other people to come and enjoy when they get a bit stressed out of Melbourne. We've got a leveled out area, can put probably 20 caravans on my place if people want to come and hang out. So, we're sort of creating a new way there, and that's something that I'm really, really pleased that we can do. Business-wise, I think the great thing that I look back on is the people you meet. And we all learn from different people over the years. And there's a couple of key people that I've done a lot of training with. And one guy in particular, he's probably the most influential person that I've ever dealt with. He's a gentleman by the name of Marshall Thurber. And years ago, he created a business course called Money and You and Business School and that sort of stuff. And he mashed up things he learnt by studying with Buckminster Fuller and W. Edwards Deming. And so Edwards Deming being the creator of the quality systems in the world, and Buckminster Fuller being one of the most outside the box thinking people of his time. And so Marshall worked with both of them at the same time for a period of about 10 years, in his own company as well. And I'd done his training programs with other different people, and Kiyosaki was one of the ones that took his work on and that sort of thing. But I actually had this great opportunity to work with him directly. And he came out to Melbourne and we did some training with him, and I got to know him pretty well. And I went over, he lives in Utah, so we went over to his house and hung out with his family, and we did a lot of great things together. And he was one of those people that you work with and you meet, and there's a point in your career or your business, whatever it may be, and there's this one moment that you always remember. And the very first morning, I was doing a course with him on public speaking and presenting, because he does a lot of training on that. And it was around, how to look at all different parts of business and to be, working in that space. And I'd had quite a lot of data amassed at that time. And I just knew that measuring greatness with satisfaction is just flawed. And we have one of the big research companies here in Australia, and every February they put out the annual Customer Satisfaction Awards. And I remember reading it once thinking, why would you reward the greatest companies with the award of satisfaction? I mean, it's like you're the best average in the market. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I didn't know what to define that as, to that higher level. And I was in the very first flip charts that Marshall did. And the way he does his training and the way I do all my training is I don't use PowerPoint. We always do flip charts and texters, and we engage in a full-on conversation. And he put up this distinction of excellence, which is the Deming principle, which sits behind Toyota. And it was basically that excellence was around the minimum of variation achieves maximum customer appreciation. And he talked about Toyota. Like, Toyota, there is virtually no variation in a Toyota. A Camry is a Camry, no matter where you buy it in the world. It's so predictable, it's so reliable, the quality is unbelievable. And so you take the variation out of whatever it is you make or do and reduce that to virtually nothing, and you'll have appreciation. And it was in that moment, it's like, that's it. That's what greatness is. It's not satisfaction, it's appreciation. And it's not the business appreciating the customer, because that's obvious. It's the customer genuinely appreciating the business for what they provide them with. And so that was when, with there, I created the customer appreciation index. I went back and we reassessed our analytics, and we were able to then go to companies and say, look, this is what greatness is according to your market. This is what defines your excellence, not someone else's, yours. And so now you know how to reverse engineer that and do it on a predictable fashion. So that was the sort of thing that was in that first 30 minutes of that. The very first thing he I don't know why he started there, but he did. And I just went, it cost me, I spent a fair bit of money with this guy, and it was like, that's the biggest bugger. I could leave now. I've just got my answer. And so from that point on, and that's about, it's about 9 years ago now. And from that point on, we just changed direction, and we have, that's our point of difference, where we were able to do that. And of course, that was the Deming principle. And the other one he spoke about from Buckminster Fuller, who spent decades studying all the top American companies. And his purpose was to define the true purpose of business. What is the true purpose of business? And he spent years studying this and interviewing people and what have you. And he came down to the distinction of add value. That is the purpose of business. If you can truly show how to constantly add value and deliver value to your market, then you have a successful company. So the two came together for me. Was like, okay, if you can deliver appreciation, then you're definitely adding value. So that just sort of brought the whole thing together. And that's my sort of thing. And the other books I've written have been around that, because it sort of makes it. I always thought, how can you make something complex simple? Because when you make it simple, people get it, and you get everyone in the company to get it. Because I want the forklift driver and the delivery person, everybody gets it. The way we do things is they all understand how they play a part in delivering excellence. Make it complicated, people lose it and they forget. So when you just get down to, look, add value, take out the variation, satisfaction's not it. It's that heart connection that creates appreciation. Why? Well, you have a job. You'll get paid. The company's got to be successful. It's not hard. So they're the things that I guess that when I look back on this journey, we're sort of, done a few laps exactly. And I just think, crikey, if I had known this 20 years ago, the things we could have done back then with the firm we had then would have just been, my goodness. And we were doing a lot of it anyway, but we didn't know how to define it. So
that's been so great to hear the story behind, because you've been talking about customer appreciation pretty much this whole interview. So it's really great to have the story that sits behind that. So thank you for sharing. Just one last question then to kind of close it off. That your chapter is in the book, How to Be a 6-Star Business. What does being 6-star mean to Darrell Hardidge, and why is it so important to you?
For me, to be 6-star means that you've had to live some very fine principles. You have to have created enormous trust with your team first, and been able to deliver high standards to your customers. It's got to be about integrity, which integrity is the essence of everything successful. And so 6-star is really about the point of the arrow in a simple sense of what is it. It's, I think, right at the pinpoint is integrity, because it's the essence of everything successful. This is one of Buckminster Fuller's principles. And then the thing with that is, if that's what holds it together, that's the glue, then of course you've got trust and respect and loyalty and relationships and quality, and all those things will follow from that. And I think when you look at it from a point of view of, what is 6-star, it's a belief. It has got to be a fundamental belief first, that it's worth it. And so that's why people that think satisfaction is the goal have got the wrong belief system around if they want to be number one. So it starts with that belief, and that belief will form a mindset and attitude, because of that belief is that, satisfaction is not the game, it's appreciation, and it's driven by what is every individual in the team, right? Definitely from the top down, and in the reverse. What's integrity? So, we don't cut corners. We don't sell crap. If we stuff something up, we own it and we fix it, and we don't hide. And if you do that, then you're unstoppable, because most people don't do this. I think it's too hard. So have that core belief, that creates the mindset and the attitude, that leads to the behavior, and those behaviors of excellence deliver the results. And, it's simple in context being the fruit bowl, content being the fruit. It's simple in context. Make it happen, of course, is another game. But I think when you can break it down to simple things for people, especially for leadership in the team, and get them inspired, because who doesn't want to be great? I mean, if people don't want to be great, then they're off your bus, right? But if you can give people the purpose and have them understand that being great for the customer, being great for my colleagues, and being great for this business, it can't fail to make me better as an individual, for my family, my friends, everything else. So, it comes back to I just see business and life the same thing. Like why should it be different? Dodgy business is a dodgy person for me. I don't see a difference.
Well, I really appreciate your openness and your time, and the fact that you've been prepared to share some of Darrell and his life and experience in this chapter for the book. So yeah, thank you.
Looking forward to it, Pete. It's just one of those things of out of the blue. The invitation was there, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity, because you never know where it leads. One of my biggest clients came out of another book where I was quoted in a paragraph, and he looked me up, and then one of our top clients, and you never know. So yeah, you've always got to look for the opportunity, So thank you very much, and it's a hard gig, this, because I know it's hard enough driving myself without driving 22 horses. So well done, and thank you.
Herding cats comes to mind.
Cats.
But anyway,
yep.
Yeah.
It can be done, apparently, as long as you're not blindfolded.